Hello everybody, this is my pollen presentation.
Welcome to my pollen talk.
Thank you. So, to start this off, I need to give you guys basically a crash course in hydrogen. What is the hype? Why is everyone talking about this? As you can see on the EU emissions, industry is about 1/5 of the total emissions the EU emits every year. Above it is just transport. Industry is very important. A lot of the European economic importance comes from important industries that are here, but the problem is a lot of these industries, I'm thinking about steel, I'm thinking about petrochemicals, plastics, are really hard to decarbonize. Direct electrification can't be done in these industries directly. So hydrogen is a solution for these industries. However, as I show on the other side, hydrogen is not for everything. Hydrogen is so popular that policymakers propose it for almost everything, but it doesn't always make sense. As you can see here, when it comes to residential heating, the IRENA, which is the International Renewable Energy Agency, says that it's a low policy priority to try to make hydrogen heated houses, for example, because there are already other solutions for this problem. But when it comes to chemicals and refineries, steel, international shipping, as you can see there, hydrogen becomes more and more important. Long transport, so not personal vehicles, because we already have electrical vehicles, is very difficult to decarbonize, and hydrogen could be a solution there. What I do have to say is most policy papers, academic papers around the EU-Africa hydrogen collaboration always talks as if the EU will have an energy mix in 2050 that is 50% renewable, 50% hydrogen. Or they assume that personal cars will also start running on hydrogen. There's always this overestimation of how important hydrogen will be in our economy. When it comes to like NGOs as Bellona and other NGOs that work on industrial decarbonization, it is clear that hydrogen should be used only in sectors where there's no other solution, or else it's really inefficient. It costs a lot of energy, even renewable energy, to make, and there's always entropy. So making hydrogen with renewable energy to make fuel cells, to make electricity, is inefficient, so it should only be used in sectors where there's no other solution. What is the EU doing? Well, the EU already had a hydrogen policy in 2020 as a part of the Green Deal, but it really accelerated once Russia invaded Ukraine. Then the EU came with Repower EU, where they basically quadrupled their ambition from 5.6 tons of hydrogen, green hydrogen, to 20 million tons, of which 10 million tons would be produced domestically and 10 million tons would be imported. This shows a couple of interesting economic opportunities, and the EU has also done a couple of policy instruments for this. The Global Gateway Initiative, for example, which is the EU's answer to the China's Belt and Road Initiative, includes a specific Africa-EU Green Energy Initiative. Within this initiative, the EU plans to invest about 4.3 billion euros, and if you add the private investment, it will come up to like 15 billion euros to help Africa with this energy transition. However, part of this is also hydrogen partnerships, creating partnerships with African nations in order to secure basically an import of hydrogen. So the EU has already started creating green hydrogen partnerships with several countries. They signed an MOU with Egypt, Morocco, and Namibia. Namibia was during the COP27 at Sharm el-Sheikh. And the EU has also will create a European hydrogen bank, which will boost commercial opportunities and commercial interest in investing in green hydrogen projects in Africa. However, a lot of these EU initiatives are public-private in nature, meaning we are looking at the industry to do this. Secondly, North Africa is the preferred partner. If you ask any commissioner, they will say that we need this cooperation with North Africa. And it's logical if you look at the logistical opportunities. You would just need pipelines from North Africa to Spain or Italy in order to transport the green hydrogen. If we zoom in, certain member states are even further along in this. But I don't have time to get into Germany. But basically, this is a map that the German Ministry of Education created, and it's a tool where you can look at different African nations and how hydrogen ready they are, and where you should invest, how much water is available, as if that water would only be available for hydrogen production. So if you look at this EU-Africa Green Hydrogen Alliance, there are positives, 100%. This could be an opportunity for Africa to decarbonize and provide clean energy for all. This is a continent where more than 50% of people living there do not have access to energy. So creating this huge market could have great impacts. Secondly, for Europe, and that's the most important thing, it's a cost-efficient green hydrogen source for Europe. This means that industry wouldn't have to leave Europe, and we could still produce steel, cement, and chemical products here. Another thing that is positive, this could come with increased employment and income for these African nations that are participating in these green partnerships. This could be a real impetus for development. But if we look at the issues, and there are many, there is a trade-off between using all the renewable energy sources that you have for hydrogen or using it to decarbonize your own energy mix. And most African nations that the EU chooses or wants to work with still have a very fossil energy mix. So the idea that they don't need all these renewables to decarbonize themselves is a bit difficult. Secondly, aren't we creating new geopolitical dependencies? For example, let's say the Western Sahara is going to produce all this with solar produced green hydrogen. Doesn't this give the EU the impetus to kind of look away when there are political difficulties? And lastly, but not leastly, green hydrogen production comes with a lot of land use, a lot of water use, and the EU keeps talking about North Africa as if there isn't water scarcity there. This is not logical if you look at the effects that it has on the local community. So to finish off, I just wanted to show you guys this map to make it really clear. This is the water that is left over, so the water availability after hydrogen production through different sources in the continent of Africa. So this is with PV, with wind, with concentrated photovoltaic and bioenergy. And as you can see, North Africa is gray in all of them. They have water scarcity. The EU hydrogen plan cannot concentrate only on these North African countries that already have issues with water. So, my recommendation, first of all, guaranteed expansion of Africa's renewable energy stocks. 90% of all projects just work with the renewable energy that is already being produced in Africa, which means that they're not creating new renewable energy sources, and that's a problem. There should be a guarantee. Secondly, guaranteed local employment. Most of the experts on green hydrogen live in Europe. If we're going to say that, oh, this is going to create employment in Africa, let's make sure that there are education programs to create African experts in order for it to be really collaborative, inclusive governance and research. A lot of the hydrogen research is done by Europeans in Europe, thinking about the European cause. It would be better to have more mix there. And lastly, expand the indicators. The EU should consider water use, land use, and the effects on the local community when thinking about investing in green hydrogen projects.